Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Adrienne Montgomery with ERP VAR, and today we're going to be talking about the new production management functionality for Sage 100 Cloud Manufacturing, and we're going to also be talking about B2B payment processing. We're going to take a kind of a deep dive into the manufacturing portion, and then we'll end with payment processing. And I'm so pleased today to be joined by Rackus Blum, and they're the #1 job provider in the nation. And APS Payments, leading provider of credit card processing payment solutions provider. And I've got Stacy Schultz with us. She's the Director of Sales and Alliances over at Rackus Blum. And Patty Benitez, she's the Senior Vice President of Channel Sales. And just a little bit about the companies here. Rackus Blum has been selling and implementing job software, Sage 100 Cloud Manufacturing provider, and serve thousands of small, medium, and large organizations. They get you the best credit card processing rate by using all of the detail in Sage 100 to serve up to the credit card processing companies that can qualify for level 3 processing with all that data. And Patty's going to go into that a little further in the presentation. So today we're going to be talking about how an order comes into Sage 100 Cloud, how that order is moved through production, and then how Patty can get the best rate for that order and credit card processing. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Stacy to kick it off. Thank you, Stacy.
Production management comes in a few different versions depending on what version of Sage you have installed. You have production management for Sage 100 as well as production management for Sage 100 Cloud. Those were both released on May 14th of 2019. Coming up soon is the production management for the make-to-order module, which will be available for Sage 100 Cloud. And at this point, that is scheduled to be released on September 3rd. A little bit more on the related modules for this. We have the inventory requirements planning module, which is the Sage MRP module, which is the replacement for the Sage MRP module, which is planned to be released in July, as well as the shop floor user. The ERP, or Inventory Requirements Planning module, will have the forecasting in a future release, but it will be coming. In July, we also have PU1, of Production Management, that's going to be available. In September, the initial release of the Make-to-Order module, as well as the Time Tracker module, are planned. In December, the initial release of the Enhanced Scheduling and Configurator modules are planned. Production management is a separate install and conversion to activate the new capabilities. Therefore, existing work order clients will have access to the software if they're running Sage 100 version 2019, but it will not be installed in their companies until they choose to do so. Sage 100 Cloud users who own work order will receive 3 standard PM users when the software is installed. PM users are priced separately and independently of the Sage users. Sage 100 Cloud clients will be able to add the shop floor users when they become available in July. As far as migrations are concerned, they have several different options. Current work order clients will have the option to continue to use the existing work order module in 2019 Sage 100 or Sage 100 Cloud, or they can transition to PM in Sage 100 or Sage 100 Cloud. If they choose to transition to PM, they can migrate their data with the Migration Wizard or set up PM from scratch. The Migration Wizard will convert the work order setup information as well as the work orders and all the open work orders as well as all their transactions. With the initial release, there is no migration of the work order history. And once PM is installed, the legacy work order and MRP modules will become read-only. Support for those legacy modules will end March of 2022. The Inventory Requirements Planning module is scheduled to be available on July 8th. This is a replacement for the MRP module. Forecasting will be added in the future. ERP itself will create POs, but if you have production management, it will also create work tickets. Support for the legacy MRP module will end in March of 2020 as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get into the software and show you guys a little bit about production management. Now, production management is the ability to create your work orders or your work tickets in the new terminology. But I'm going to go ahead and go into sales order and click create a sales order so we have some demand out there. So I'm going to grab the next order number and I'm going to grab one of my customers, determine what my ship date is, and that could be 7/15. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my item numbers that I'm going to order. And I'm going to say that that this customer wants 2 of these. And we can go ahead and put in the options for what we want this to be. You can have your required one as well as all your option codes already set up in bill of materials, so it'll automatically pull into sales order. Once we have that order out there, we can go ahead and accept it. Now we can get into the heart of the issues, or the heart of the matter. We can go into work ticket entry. Within work ticket entry, we can grab the next work ticket number. We can add the item that we're making. We can decide how many of those we want to make. And I'll say that we want to make 10 of them. Based on your yield, it's going to choose what you're planning on making. You can print your work tickets and pick sheets and release the item automatically based on the way you have your system set up. You can choose how you're going to issue your labor and material. So you can either auto issue it, or you can go ahead and backflush it, or you can manually issue it and not have anything checked. You can set it up within the setup to determine what you want to do by default, and then on a work ticket by work ticket basis, you can override it. You can also choose what you want to make this for. Do you want to make it for inventory, sales order, or a work ticket? And this is just like the functionality that's currently in work order, where you can link it, or you can reference what you're making this particular order for. We can go ahead and click the copy. And the copy from is going to give us the options. Do we want to make this work ticket from the bill of materials, which is by default, the template, or a template of your bill of materials and routing information, an open work ticket that you currently have open, or a closed work ticket. I'm going to go ahead and do it from bill of materials. And again, you can choose those option codes. So I'm going to grab that option, and since we don't have it linked, we need to tell it what option we want in this one. We can also tell it whether or not we wanted to explode the subassemblies. And this will go ahead and take any subassemblies of this item and explode them into the view of the work ticket so you can see everything in line for what you're going to need to make for this. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. All right, so now we have that in our work ticket. We can go ahead and resize the screen because this is through Business Framework, so we can resize the screen. If we go to the steps, we're going to have the dual entry grids. We're going to be able to do custom office within here, etc. From here, you can see all the different steps that are included in this work ticket. The ones that are 1, 2, 3 are the subassembly, whereas the finished good are 0, 10, 20, 30. So on step 0, we have our subassembly where we have to make that to be able to continue on with the rest of the finished good. If we highlight any of the steps, we can go ahead and we can recalculate the budgets for all the steps to pull in the material costs for what's going to be included in here. We've got a description of what's going on in that step, the activity code, the work center. The activity code is like the work order operation code. We've got our work center, we've got our original budget, and at this point it's the same as the revised budget for the hours, the labor dollars, and the material dollars. We've also got all the information in our secondary grid, including a status code that is on each and every step. So that status code is something that's user definable, so we can go ahead and make up whatever status codes make sense in our world to be able to change it and track the statuses of the work ticket steps so that everybody knows what's going on with this particular work ticket. We can also set up any of the steps to have information about whether or not it is an outside process. If you have an outside process, you're going to be able to see the vendor number in the vendor number field associated with that particular step. We also have our scheduled hours, and once we get to the once the scheduling module gets created, we'll be able to schedule those work tickets as well using these scheduling hours. If we go to the materials tab, you're going to have a bunch of different things. You're going to be able to see all your different materials that were pulled in from the bill of materials that are needed for this particular work ticket. You can see what step they're associated with. If you need to, you can go ahead and change that step. So if we want to change the this one, we can go ahead and choose a different step. We can choose a different step to associate it with. If we want to, we can have it default in that this is an item that needs to be purchased direct to the work ticket, and therefore we'll link the purchase order direct to the work ticket itself. We're going to have our quantities required, and if we create a PO, we're going to have that purchase order number put on in this field so that we can keep track of it. If we go to the Totals tab, it's going to show us our budgets, a roll-up of all our budgets. So we're going to have our labor cost, our material cost, any direct costs, as well as the total cost and the total hours for this particular job. We can go ahead and accept it because, again, we're just starting to make this thing. And because I have it set up to do so, it's going to automatically release this work ticket form. And that is, again, a setup option on whether or not you want that to happen. And if you don't have that happen, the release is literally changing the drop-down, which is a security function that you have to set up for the users to be able to allow them to have it so that you can control who's releasing the work tickets. I'll go ahead and preview this. And this is a crystal form, so you can make it look and feel however you want it to look and feel. I've got my bill of materials, or all my materials that I need for this particular work ticket on the first page. And on the second page, I've got all the information about the different steps, process steps that this needs to go through. Now, if I close that out and go back to our work ticket, you can see that now it's released. We can go ahead and go to the Steps tab. And now the original budgets are all locked down. So if I needed to change this, I can't do it. I have to go over to the revised budget and say, you know what, something's happened, and now this is going to take us 12 hours instead of the 11. It will update the revised budget hours and the revised labor dollars associated with that. You can go ahead and click Accept, and it will now make that part of our work ticket. You can close this out and go into the work ticket transactions. And the work ticket transactions are like the work order transactions. We have to choose our batch number or select a batch number, whichever. And once we're in here, we can choose the next transaction number, and we have the option of 4 different types of transactions. We can do a material transaction, a labor transaction, a closing transaction, or a completion transaction. And I'm going to go ahead and within work order, this was 8 different transactions, but we've streamlined it and incorporated other ways of doing the other transactions in other methods. So we'll go ahead and grab the material, and we'll choose our work ticket. And this work ticket number, I forgot to mention earlier, but initially in work order, it was a 7-character work order number, and it's been expanded to a 12-character work order or work ticket number. So when we're in the lines, we can go and use the binoculars to look up all the different items that are on this work ticket. When we know what one we want to issue, we can go ahead and grab that item and determine what we want to issue. You can issue the quantity that's required, or more or less than the quantity required, depending on what's needed. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and issue 2 of these. If there's an item that I didn't plan on using that I ended up using, you can go ahead and add that as well. So if we go ahead and type in one of our other numbers, we can determine what step we want to added to. So we can add this step. And because this is a lot tracked item, we need to distribute the lot. So we can grab that item with whatever quantity we're going to distribute. Now we can go ahead and accept that labor or the material transaction, and then we can make a labor transaction as well. We can grab our work ticket, and we can determine what step we're working on. It'll default in the activity code in the work center, and we can say what kind of hours we're putting in here. And if we go ahead and accept that, we can see our different transactions and review which transactions were, or what our work ticket that we're putting the transactions into. And we can go ahead and accept it. Once it's accepted, we can go ahead and process it just like you did with work order. We can go ahead and preview what the transaction journal is and what transactions it's going to make. We're going to take into account your setup for whether or not you have overhead, and if it's a variable overhead or a fixed overhead or both, as well as the actual costs associated with either those parts or labor. And we will go ahead and quickly go through that screen, and then it will ask me if we're going to update the journal. I'll go ahead and say yes. We can say yes and take a look at what the daily register is going to be. We see all the different transactions and what GL accounts it's going to hit. And then we can update the daily transactions. If we go ahead and go into work ticket entry again, and we can go to our last work ticket, and we can go ahead and go to the inquiry tab, and we can see the different labor and material transactions that are happening. So we can see our material transactions, we can see our labor transactions. If we have linked purchase orders, which we haven't done yet, we can see those transactions, as well as any AP direct costs or status changes. And all these different inquiries, we can filter them by the step or look at them for the whole work ticket. Let me go back into that one for a second. The other thing that you can do within here is that, unlike regular the legacy work order, this work ticket is not locked down as far as being able to make any changes until it is completed. So at this point, I can still go ahead and add materials to this and choose what step I'm adding it to and how many of them do I need. And I can either do it as a requirement or as an issued, or I can do both. So I can go ahead and issue those. If there's other materials that I want to purchase, I can go ahead and highlight those items. Let's find one we want to purchase. Oops. And click off the PO box to be able to purchase it. Let me pull that over here. To be able to purchase it. Now, if we want to purchase it directly from here, we can go ahead and click the PO button. And it's saying, hey, you want me to save this first? So we'll say yes, go ahead. But then it's going to bring up the cut purchase order screen. From within here, you can go ahead and grab the next purchase order, select what vendor you're going to purchase it from. If you want to add additional items, you can go ahead and take a look at everything that's on here and select all the different ones that you want to purchase. Once you have everything that you want to purchase, you can click the OK button, and my purchase order was now created. If I click OK, and if we accept that and go back in, we're now going to be able to see all the information on that particular item for our purchase order number, our promise date based on the lead time of the item. If we go to the inquiry tab and go to that purchase orders, we're now going to see that linked PO and what we're ordering and whether or not it's been received or not. One of the other things that we can do is we can go into, if we have 100 Cloud, we can go into the labor entry tab, or the labor entry functionality. We have to create our batch, and then we can decide what kind of transaction we want to do. Do we want to do a labor entry, miscellaneous time entry, a labor crew, or labor cost? I'm going to do a labor entry and grab one of my employees. We can select which work ticket he's working on and which step of that work ticket. From here, it's going to default in the system clock time, but this can be adjusted if needed, and it will, of course, have security around it so that you can decide whether or not you want them to be able to do it. And I don't want AM, I want PM, and then I can say what time I finished it, or what time he finished it. And it's going to put the hours worked. But it's also showing you over here the budgeted hours for what the step was supposed to take. And they can write some information about the kind of work that they performed. They can go ahead and change that status as part of the transaction as well. So if it needed to go on hold or if it was completed, you could go ahead and choose that status and add a status comment if you choose to, and how many were completed. Now, the quantity that's completed here is for reference as far as what's been completed so far on this step, not what's been completed on this job. Because at this point, I've only finished the work in this particular step. So I can say I completed one of them. We can go ahead and accept that information and continue to put information in here for other things that we've gotten done. I'm going to go back in there so I can go ahead and run my batch. Let me review what's in here. Actually, let's go ahead and update that information. Actually, before we even update it, if we go back to work ticket entry for our work ticket and go to that inquiry tab again, go to the labor, we can now see that transaction. And this is called dynamic labor. It actually puts all the information into the work ticket and into WIP without hitting the GL again. At the end of it, you can update everything, all your GL information. Go to the inquiry one more time. We can take a look at the labor transactions, all the material transactions, including the one that we put on the purchase order. We can take a look at the status changes. We can see that this step was completed, who completed it, and when they completed it. We can go ahead and go back into our work ticket transactions and do a completion as well. So we'll create a new batch with a new batch number. We can do a completion, and as part of that completion, we can grab our work ticket, and we're going to have the option within here to choose what our cost method is. If we're doing a partial completion, we may want to do a standard cost to pull it into inventory, and then any variances off that standard cost will go into the variance account when the whole work ticket is completed, or we could do actuals or budgets, depending on what makes most sense. I'm going to go ahead and do actuals, and we can go ahead and complete one of these. One of the other things that you can do, if we go ahead and look in the secondary grid, is you can close the work ticket at the same time. So if you wanted to complete all the quantities and close out the work ticket, you can check off the box, and it would take care of your completion and your closing all at the same time. One of the other things that we had in here are sub-items, and a sub-item is like a byproduct. So if you have a byproduct that's coming off this job that needs to go into stock, you can reference what that byproduct is to put into stock at the same time. And if you had any scrap, you can go down to the scrap section and go ahead and scrap out one or two of the finished goods depending on what actually happened. I'm going to go ahead and print this out, and it's going to save my changes. Ask me what batch I'm doing. And I can go ahead and preview this. And it's going to update my journals and registers for this completion. So I'm going to be putting this in stock. You can print out labels if you need to as part of this process. And I'm going to update the journal. It has all the basic, or all the reports, completion reports that work order had, but I'm not going to go through these at this point. And they are all paperless office compliant. So if you have paperless office installed, you can go ahead and print those to file directly per your paperless office settings. I'm going to go ahead and print the register. And it's going to show me all the information that we have looked at before about what's being updated to the journal. And I'll go ahead and update the register. And now that item is in stock and waiting for me. Well, actually, let's double check. The work ticket is still open because I've only completed one. So if we go down there and we go to the inquiry, we can go to our completions and we can see that we've completed one of these. So if we need to, we can go ahead and get that one shipped out to the client since they needed it early. So at this point, I will let Patty take over.
And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to provide you with information that could potentially save you enough money to buy the solutions that Stacy is recommending, that ERP VAR recommends. And how do we plan to do that? Take a look at your screen right now. Save up to 43% on business-to-business transactions. So the same as with Stacy, we provide automation, security, compliance, and visibility. Everyone wants to be able to take control of their current ERP system while saving money for yourselves and saving your customers money as well as time. So I'd like to jump right into the click-to-pay presentation. We at APS Payments are a full-service merchant provider, which means that we are the gateway and the processor. We are fully embedded into Sage 100, allowing you to process transactions within standard Sage 100 in your sales order screen, invoice data entry screen, as well as accounts receivable cash receipts. We also offer, and this is the part you really have to listen to, click-to-pay functionality, which allows your customers to pay for the invoices online. And the way it works is very simple. You basically print out your paperless office invoices through Sage 100, and we actually included a click-to-pay button on the body of the invoice. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. We also include level 3 savings. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with level 3, this is what allows you to lower your rates by up to 43%. We've actually been able to save, and this is record breaking, one of our merchants over $400,000 a year simply by processing through level 3. Now, this is a program that was put in place by Visa and MasterCard, available to anyone at no charge. The catch is that Visa and MasterCard request 13 to 16 data fields. Needless to say, you don't have time to key them in. So what we've done is we've actually automated the process, and we take the data fields out of Sage and deliver them to Visa MasterCard on your behalf, guaranteeing the lower rates. So say, for example, you're paying an average of 2.65, we can lower that rate to 1.85 instantly simply by processing through level 3 processing. And what I'd like to do is show you exactly how easy it is to set up level 3 within Sage 100. I'm under Library Master Company Maintenance. We switch on the level 3, and the data fields that we're delivering to Visa and MasterCard, most of them are available out of the box from Sage. Those that were not available, we actually created user-defined fields so that we eliminate the need for any manual entry to be required. We offer the ability to process credit cards as well as ACH, Level 3 will apply not only within Sage if you're processing a transaction within Sage, but also if you are having your customers pay using the Click to Pay. Click to Pay will also allow for multi-currency. You can see that for this particular demo, I have US dollars as well as Canadian. And Click to Pay default customer option can be opt-in or opt-out by customer and can be changed at the customer level. So if I go into accounts receivable, customer maintenance, I just want to show you how, if anyone is currently processing using Paya or formerly known as Sage Payments, the functionality is very similar, almost identical. You can see that in the Additionals tab, as standard Sage offers, you will have the ability to enter credit cards, as many as you'd like per customer. Now, when you do enter the credit card information, we tokenize the information, store it in our secured vault, and allow you to see only the last 4 digits of the card along with the billing information. We also allow you to include an email address per card, and this email address will receive a receipt automatically whenever you complete a transaction. Now, we like to come in at a negative cost. So all of this functionality is available to you at no charge as long as you are processing within or become an APS merchant. The other thing that I wanted to show you briefly is within sales orders, we allow you to actually process individual transactions or process the transactions in batches. You can pre-authorize a transaction, and if you do pre-authorize, you can add the freight amount now at the pre-authorization level or whenever you're ready to capture the card. So you can see capture screen would look identical to what you see now. My default credit card information will be available. Now I can add cards at the customer level, but I could also add them on the fly at the sales order or invoice level. I can also choose from a list of cards or transaction or payment types, I should say. If I decide to pre-authorize, notice how the screen will slightly change. And as I mentioned, you can always add a shipping fee at this moment or add it later. I processed my transaction, very simple. I simply submitted my card, and now you can see the transaction has been authorized. Now, whenever you're ready to complete the transaction, you follow standard Sage, invoice your transaction, and simply update the invoice. Now, once you update the invoice, all of the relevant modules will be updated as well. And you're capturing the funds. If you batch out by 9 p.m. Eastern, you will have the funds available in your bank account the next morning by 8 a.m. You heard correctly. We do offer 12-hour funding. So you can see my transaction is complete and my credit card is expired now. So it's just letting me know. But transaction complete, all I have to do is print my invoices and continue my end of day process. Now, instead of going through the update right now, what I'd like to show you is the click to pay functionality. I created several invoices, and now I'd like to step over to the customer side of things. So let's just say that you printed out your paperless office invoices, your customer received them via email, and the invoice attached. When they click on the invoice, they will see, of course, a standard crystal form, and this is what we've added, the APS click to pay button. Now, when your customer clicks on the click to pay button, they will be able to see details regarding the specific invoices that you sent them. You can see here we go down to the line item detail. If your customer decides to make a payment, they will also be able to see any open invoices. So you can see this particular customer has 2 open invoices. The amount for this transaction is $781.20, but if I start clicking on additional invoices, the total do will auto increment for me. Also, click to pay will allow your customers to pay the full balance of the invoice or a custom amount. I'm going to choose the full balance for now. Now, when you set up a click to pay customer, you can give them the option to pay with credit card and or ACH. And you can see this particular customer has been given the option to pay using either or. They can also save a payment method for future use or use a previously saved payment method. Now, the customer in this case will continue and add a brand new card. Now, notice that there are 4 fields requested in order to process the credit card. In this case, because I've used click to pay in the past, my postal code was saved. So really, I only had to add 3 fields, and I'm submitting my payment. Now, once I submit my payment, the transaction goes through our gateway. We're going to verify all of the information is correct. If there were any discrepancies, such as the wrong CVV code or the address is not correct, you will see pop-up windows indicating the discrepancies. If everything was correct, they will get a success notification. Optional is that you can also set up the system to send your customer a receipt. And the receipt is very standard looking. Let me walk you through that receipt right now. I have an old receipt here, and you can see it'll show all of the information regarding the invoice that your customer just paid. Now, once the customer pays, how does this all go back into Sage? Very simple. You simply go to your cash receipts entry. And what we've done is added a click to pay button at the cash receipts deposit screen, as you can see here. When you click on the click to pay button, it will retrieve any payments that were made using click to pay for that day. And you can accept them. And then you can go through each one of the payments that your customers made. So you can see here, this payment was made using the click to pay. Now, needless to say, once you have your end of day and process your cash receipts, all of the relevant modules will then be updated. You will capture the funds. And as I said, so long as you batch out by 9 p.m. Eastern, you will have the funds available in your bank account the next morning. The other thing that you can do through cash receipts is apply payments against open invoices. So really, you don't have to do anything different than when you accept cash or check, other than choose credit card. You can then go to the lines. Oh, sorry, should probably start an entry and enter the amount that you're going to be receiving, and then continue your standard process. Choose the different invoices that you would like to choose. Standard Sage functionality here. Just go to your lines here, choose the items. I don't have enough money to pay for this, but I chose all the items nonetheless. My point is, it's standard Sage functionality. What we try to do is keep it as simple as possible so you don't have to worry about a huge learning curve. In the Payments tab, you'll be able to see the default credit card, but the user will also be able to see the list of credit cards, and yes, you can also add a credit card on the fly. So as far as Sage, very straightforward, very simple, not a huge learning curve. The other area in which you can also process transactions is through the APS Pay payment portal. Now you can see the portal is very straightforward as well. You can process the transactions that you'd like through the portal. Let me just log back in here. And the setback here is that you would have to enter the transaction here and then manually key it into Sage. But if there are ever any emergencies, take advantage of the portal, process your transactions. You can also set it up for recurring invoices. And then you can actually create reports. Now there are thousands of reports available right within the portal. If you can see here, there's an immense amount of sorting criteria available to you. So let's just say, for example, I have the settlement report, but you can separate it by card payment type, payment processor, user account, by day, by week, by month. It's entirely up to you. In this case, what I'd like to do is take a peek at my current transactions. We give you a bird's eye view of each transaction, let you know exactly where in the process the transaction stands. So you'll see that there are some canceled, approved, pending captured, some that were pre-authorized, and some that have actually failed. The transaction we processed is pending capture. If you click on the transaction ID, you'll be able to see the detail that we pull from Sage Live. And all of this information is the level 3 data that's being delivered to Visa, MasterCard on our merchants' behalf in order to guarantee the level 3 rates to our merchants. Now, what I would like to show you are the level 3 data fields that are required, just so you can get an idea. Now notice for level 1, 2 data fields. Level 2, it increases, and look at level 3. You don't have to worry about that. Let us deliver it. Now, if you've been multitasking, you really have to pay attention now. Here is the amount of savings that we can provide by simply processing through level 3. Now, in this case, it's 30%. It can go up to 43%. Average savings, $16,000 to $17,000 a year. Who wouldn't want this amount of money? You're leaving it on the table. Give us a chance to show you exactly how it is that you can lower those rates. We know that you're getting a statement that is giving you very little insight as far as the bank fees, the types of credit cards received, and what we would like to do is actually review the statement, provide you with the full audit, and indicate the line items that can provide you with the lower rates. Also, pinpoint the areas in which you can also save money due to miscellaneous fees that really shouldn't be charged at all. I also want to show you quickly the APS sample statement because we too show you a summary of the transactions that you're processing, but we also like to show you, and take a look at this, the detail behind each and every transaction. So you'll notice that this is, for example, a Visa card, interchange regular business, and the rate that you're paying for it. Now, we like to show you about the payment structures because when you learn about the payment structures, you also find out how it is that we're able to save you money. There are 3 rate structures: flat, tiered, and interchange. The flat rate, let me tell everyone that's on the line, flat rates are good, but they're not good if you're looking for level 3 savings. Because if you sign a flat rate contract, you're stuck on that rate. And no matter what programs the processors are putting in place, you will not be able to take advantage of them. Tiered pricing is very confusing. Most of the time for tiered pricing, the processor decides how to qualify each transaction. There are 3 brackets: non, mid, and fully qualified. When we check statements that are on tiered pricing, we find 99% of the time transactions are not qualified. We recommend Interchange Plus. It's very transparent. The hard cost from the card brand is delivered directly to the merchant, and you are able to take advantage of level 3 savings. So in addition to level 3, click to pay, 12-hour funding, we offer PCI compliance assistance at no charge. One of the fees that we typically see in the statements from our competitors are $35 charges per month, $95 charges per year for PCI compliance assistance or for non-compliance. We will help you get compliant, remain compliant. We talked about the level 3 savings and the click to pay. We also offer EMV and chip functionality. Take advantage, ladies and gentlemen. This is all at no charge to you. We provide our enhancement at no charge. We make money on the transaction fees, which we negotiate with you and then put in writing right within your contract. So who exactly would be a good candidate for APS? Anyone that's taking credit card payments, anyone in all industries who has business-to-business, business-to-customer transactions. The ideal person at a company that would most likely take advantage of the information we provide would be definitely the owner, the CFO, the VP of Finance, and the controller. Remember, we provide free audits. We will gladly let you know exactly how to obtain the lower fees. If you're interested in the free audit, send us 2 of your most recent merchant statements. We will analyze them, call you back, and walk you through your statement so that you can fully understand how to go back to any processor and get the lowest rates in the industry. We also guarantee to beat or match any competitors' rates and fees, and if we're not able to do so, we will pay you $500 for simply allowing us to provide you with the audit. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to stop leaving that money on the table. Let us show you how to get that money back and how to lower your rates. I'm going to leave my contact information there. And Adrian, I'd like to hand it back over to you.
And thank you, everybody, once again. Take care.